Mr Topsy-Turvy at the Zoo. Roger Hargreaves. Mr Topsy-Turvy was a funny sort of a fellow, just like his name. Everything he did was topsy-turvy, upside down, inside out, or back to front. It really did cause trouble at times, but it did not seem to bother Mr Topsy-Turvy, who just went about in the same topsy-turvy fashion. One morning, Mr Topsy-Turvy decided to go to the zoo. He got ready by cleaning his teeth and then eating his breakfast, topsy-turvy fashion, as usual. He read his paper upside down and then checked the time on his topsy-turvy clock. It said 5 o'clock. But this was because his clock numbers were all jumbled up. It was the most topsy-turvy clock you ever did see. Mr Topsy-Turvy set off for the station to catch a train to the zoo. He had his hat on upside down as usual, and he walked backwards to the station, which caused everyone to stare. Some people glared too, because, of course, if you walk backwards, you can't help bumping into people. Now, another extraordinary thing about Mr Topsy-Turvy is the way he speaks. He gets all his words jumbled up. So when he got to the station, he said to the booking clerk, "Morning good. Noah's Ark Zoo, a ticket I would like." Fortunately, the booking clerk had met Mr Topsy-Turvy before, so he knew what he wanted. But the station master was very surprised to see Mr Topsy-Turvy trying to sit in the engine driver's cab. "You can't sit there, sir," he said firmly. So Mr Topsy-Turvy went into the guard's van and perched upside down on a crate of chickens. Oh dear, what a topsy-turvy man he was! When he got out at the station, Mr Topsy-Turvy saw a sign pointing to the zoo, but he started walking in the opposite direction, so that it was simply ages before he arrived at the zoo. Then he went the wrong way through the admittance turnstile. You can imagine the havoc this caused. The queue waiting to get into the zoo grew and grew and grew before Mr Topsy-Turvy was finally freed. Then, hearing that the zookeeper needed help, he offered his services. "To help, I should like," he said. "Well, take this food to the sea lions," said the keeper. "Make sure that everyone gets at least one fish." "As you say, it shall be," said Mr Topsy-Turvy, picking up the bucket and promptly turning it upside down so that all the fish fell out. The zookeeper helped him to pick up the fish, and began to think that perhaps he had better give the job to someone else. But Mr Topsy-Turvy was already at the sea lions' pool, and what do you think the silly topsy-turvy fellow did? He gave all the people watching the sea lions a raw fish to eat. The poor sea lions got nothing at all. Oh dear! Mr Topsy-Turvy, what a topsy-turvy fellow you are! Mr Topsy-Turvy went to the birdhouse to see all the different kinds of birds. Because there was a puddle by the door, and he did not want to get his feet wet, he walked through the entrance on his hands. But his hands got very muddy. and his feet caught an ornamental flowering shrub and knocked all the blossoms off. Because he thought that people could not see the bird notices properly, Mr. Topsy-Turvy decided to rearrange them, but in his topsy-turvy fashion he got them all mixed up. The golden eagle became the hummingbird, and the cockatoo the blue tit. Visitors could scarcely believe their eyes, and when the parrots began to talk exactly like Mr. Topsy-Turvy, they could scarcely believe their ears either.
"Cheeky boy, who is then?"
cried one parrot.
"Me a kiss give?"
cried another. Before he went home, Mr. Topsy-Turvy decided to go through the zoo maze. And do you know, something really surprising happened. Although Mr. Topsy-Turvy wandered around the maze in his usual topsy-turvy way, completely ignoring the signs, he actually got out of the maze far sooner than everyone else. So you see, sometimes acting in a topsy-turvy way brings good results. But when it was time to go home, Mr. Topsy-Turvy had forgotten that he had a return rail ticket, and he went home on the bus. He spent ages searching for the stairs to go onto the top deck until someone told him that it was a single-decker bus. Poor Mr. Topsy-Turvy. Do you think he will ever change? He is a funny man, isn't he? Do you sometimes do topsy-turvy things and make everyone laugh? Listening for, you thank.